the other countries would stay in.
Well, France isn't happy with the with whatever agreements they've reached. I can't understand or say why, but they're not happy with it. We know that Netanyahu isn't happy. Okay.
But he's not in the talks.
It still has to go through discussions in Congress. It's not a treaty that has to be ratified. But if Congress tries to put the kibosh on this, it's very possible that they can.
Well, I don't agree us talking to Iran. I mean, we're talking to them on one side and we're bombing them on the other side. I mean, it makes no sense.
Well, because Iran is supporting the Yemenis terrorists.
They're not terrorists. It's another faction, but they're not terrorists.
Al-Shabaab?
I don't know who they're...
Yeah, Al-Shabaab. Like shish kebab,
Alibaba, I don't know who the hell they're supporting. But it's not a good thing. I mean, here's a country that the number one priority is to destroy another country. How can you negotiate with a country like that?
Well, it's very simple, because the Palestinians for years have had the same belief. The Palestinians, Yasser Arafat and the others. It's they just don't want to recognize Israel's right to existence.
But Yasser Arafat has since then recognized Israel. But anyway, Iran is much more powerful also. And you don't negotiate with Iran with anybody that wants to destroy another country. Right, Dan?
Yeah, but that's so interesting with Israel and the United States. I think Israel is... the United States backs them so much at the same... I don't know, I think Obama's really messing this whole thing up, but I think Israel empowered them. Let them take over there in the Middle East. I tell you, they really are. They're a powerful force.
Israel's got the fourth strongest army in the world.
What Israel is pointing to was that in the last group of peace talks a number of years ago, when Israel gave back territory and land, the first thing the Palestinians did was attack them. Okay?
Right.
Building up strongholds and attacking, the state of Israel, rather than trying to use this as a building block, sort of,
I don't know. I think the problem with the Middle East is we didn't know what we're getting into. We're getting rid of. We tried to take over a little bit there, but we don't understand what was going on. We took out Saddam. I think that was a mistake. He knew what he was dealing with over there.
Well, we did a lot of things, and we've discussed this on this show. Generally on Monday, on Mondays, we said. For the most part, all the dictators that were overthrown during the Arab Spring, Mubarak in Egypt, he kept Egypt in check,
right, that's what I think we
Saddam
got rid of the wrong people, because they knew of these ISIS and whatnot over there. We weren't paying attention to it.
Well, Saddam Hussein, he kept his people in check too. Gaddafi,
same
thing.
And we got rid of them.
But when we got rid of all these people, we weren't prepared for what was replacing them.
Exactly right.
It's one of those.
Be careful. We're not prepared for what was going to the aftermath of that.
Be careful what you wish for, because it may come true. Not that we were wishing for the rise in these terrorist groups and everything, but there were certain groups of people who were neglected, and rather than become part of the current governments in these countries, they're still being neglected, and that's why they were ripe for terrorism, for the terror groups.
Yeah. I think Saddam knew all this stuff, and we just weren't real clueless because we live in America and everything's rosy over here, but it's not that way over there.
It's like Felix asking me to do this show with him. He says to me, "I'll give you all the freedom you want," and then he shuts me down all the time.
I shut you down. I do not. Don't you ever say that again.
Hey, you see what I have to put up with?
But, it's just, we think that our type of government, our democracy will work everywhere, and it just doesn't.
That's right. See, you're right.
I agree with you guys.
That was the big problem.
Way we think is the best, but
that was the big problem with George W. Bush. George W. Bush felt that every Middle Eastern country, behind every Middle Eastern dictatorship, was a democracy just waiting to come forward, and that's not the case. Okay,
that's not the case. Exactly right.
Some people can't handle democracy. They don't know what it's like. Look at the problems that Russia had after the Berlin Wall fell, and Germany was unified. There were many problems economically that they felt. Many of them couldn't handle democracy. So now what do you have? You have somebody like Putin who wants to go back to the old regime.
Okay. Right, exactly. That's exactly right. You know what it is? America, these countries have been around way before the United States. Way before it. So we're trying to adjust to them, but we're not trying. We think we know best here, but we don't understand that. They've been around for thousands of years, these countries, and not thousands, hundreds of years. The United States is only how old?
1776.
200-something years. The United States has been around for how long now?
236 years or so, around that.
Okay, and how long have they been around? So
how long has Iran been around? Persia, they've been around forever.
And in the Bible, over 2,000 years.
Yeah, right. The United States is whatever, like you said, that's whatever it was, the 200, 300 years. But these guys are around 1,000 this year, and we're playing with something we don't know.
Very true.
I think when it's time and the country's ready, it becomes a democracy. We have democracies in Africa that are working.
We can't.
But
we can't would strap a bomb on their chest to run. We can't understand why someone would strap a bomb on their chest and run into a building. Because that's not even, we'd never ever do that. But then, they're looking for their, 9 virgins after they do that. We can't understand that.
Go back to the Spanish conquistadors when they came to the New World. All right? They looked upon the American Indian as a heathen. Okay, or they looked upon the Aztecs and the Mayans in South America as heathens. But they were in existence for hundreds of years. They had a culture, they had leaders, they had rules, and it worked for them. But because the conquistadors came over, the first thing they tried to do was convert them to Catholicism. Right. That was their job, and it became chaos. Before the conquistadors came, then after that, the Indians were dying from the common cold. They were dying from syphilis and gonorrhea. Okay, these were diseases that they never had to face before. All brought by the white man.
I agree with you. Well, I think America got, I'm sorry to say, all Americans, we became that lazy people. We don't. We're all living in mansions over here. I think we know it all. These people are living in huts and living 15 people in a little house. We're living in these mansions and we don't understand their culture. We don't get it.
It's true. It's true.
Well, that's my thoughts. I mean, we're all living. We all cry here about how bad we have on Long Island with taxes and the cop shootings that we see on the news. These people are living. 50 people are living in one room. They'll have every day that piece of bread.
All right.
That's the part I think America does not understand.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Because the problem I see is that they're bringing the culture over to America now. Now, I've seen it. I'm sure you guys have seen it. They're bringing the Indians and Chinese and 10 people. They're bringing their culture over here. 10 people living in one room on the house, and we don't get it.
Sure.
I want my one bed. Yeah, I want my one bedroom and watch my TV. There's not 10 people living in there, but they're okay with that.
Everybody has, everybody lives a little differently, and we have to accept that. And until we do,
right.
We got a problem.
Right, until we do, exactly. That's the problem.
Because if it's time, I think a country will eventually become a democracy or not, depending on if it's their time. And I think it has to be done within. It can't be done from the outside. You can't force them to change the government from the outside. It's got to be from within.
Right.
I mean, that's what happened in Russia.
Yeah.
Came apart from within.
One of the problems, I think, not problems, I shouldn't say that, but technology has really changed the world. Because we can all see videos of cops shooting somebody in the street. We can see mass bombing. That wasn't available not that long ago. That wasn't available for us to see.
Yeah, but Russia is a very good example of a country. The Soviet Republic. It was time. They got too big and they fell apart. Some countries were ready for democracy, like Poland and some other countries. Yugoslavia. And they handled it very well.
Belarus, I believe. But then you have the countries that ended in STAN, Uzbekistan, countries like this who had a tough time of it.
Yeah.
And they had...
I feel the problem with the United States is that we got so comfortable, look, America is great, the greatest country, I think, out there in the world. See, but we can't understand that these people are happy just a simple life. They don't care about greed. America wants greed and conquer. And, we all strive for driving Mercedes Benz and whatnot. That's good, capitalism. But these people don't care about that. They're happy having the bread and water and just praying to Allah or God or whatever they believe in. And we're trying to force our beliefs on them. So that's what we don't understand. We're like, hey guys, come aboard, come to America, make money and live have a nice house. These people are happy with 10 people in a home, making $1, 50 cents an hour. They're happy with that.
They don't know any better, and it's fine.
What's that?
They don't know any better, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right, but we're telling them it's not okay. I'm like, right, I think it's... The problem is the two different cultures, cultures clashing together. We don't, living here in Long Island, New York is expensive as hell, but they don't care about that. They just want to live, take care of their families and their children and have a nice life, eating wheat and water, and they're happy.
True.
That's why you don't see Americans running into buildings with bomb strapped on their chest. We don't see that here. We don't. Well, unfortunately,